Little Fox.
The Wind in the Willows. Episode 36. Helping Mr. Toad. The long winter ended. The bright sun made the riverbank green. The river flowed and sparkled again. It was finally spring. Rat and Mole planned to go boating.
But first, breakfast,
said Rat as he ate his egg. Mole finished his toast and jelly. They heard a knock at Rat's door.
Mole, I'm still eating,
said Rat.
Will you answer the door?
Sure,
said Mole. Mole ran to the door and opened it.
Mr. Badger!
Cried Mole. Rat dropped his fork.
Badger? Here?
Said Rat.
He hardly ever leaves the wild wood.
Badger walked into the room.
The hour has come,
said Badger. Mole looked at the clock on the wall.
What hour?
Asked Mole.
You should say, whose hour? It is the hour for Toad,
cried Badger.
What?
Asked Rat, scratching his head.
Winter is over,
said Badger.
We must take care of Toad.
Hooray!
Shouted Mole. He jumped up and down.
When?
Right now,
said Badger.
Toad just bought another big car. Oh no,
said Rat, getting up from the table.
We must get to Toad Hall,
cried Mole.
before it's too late,
added Rat. The three friends rushed out the door. Together, they set out for Toad Hall. The Wind in the Willows. Episode 37. Badger Gets Mad. Badger, Rat, and Mole arrived at Toad Hall.
Badger was right.
Said Mole.
Look at that.
A shiny car was parked at the house. It was painted red, Toad's favorite color.
It sure is big,
said Rat.
I'll knock on the door,
said Badger. But before he could, the door burst open.
Hello!
Shouted Toad, smiling. Toad wore long gloves and a coat. Goggles covered his eyes.
You are just in time,
said Toad.
It's time for a ride in my new car.
The three friends stared at him.
What a silly outfit,
said Rat.
What's wrong?
Said Toad.
These are my driving clothes.
Take him inside,
said Badger. Rat and Mole grabbed Toad.
Hey, let go of me!
Yelled Toad. He kicked his legs in the air. They dragged Toad back into his house.
Now then,
Badger said to Toad.
take off those stupid clothes.
I will not!
Cried Toad proudly.
I won't!
Boys, take off his things.
Badger said. The three friends went right to work.
I'll sit on him,
Said Rat.
Here, I've got his gloves.
Said Mole.
I've got his goggles.
Said Badger. They pulled at his cap and coat. Toad kicked angrily.
Hey!
Screamed Toad.
What are you doing?
The Wind in the Willows. Episode 38. Talking to Toad. Toad struggled under his friends.
Get off me!
He screamed.
You have no right! Help! Help!
Hold still, Toad.
Said Mole. Finally, they got Toad out of his coat and cap. The goggles and gloves lay on the floor.
Now stand up, Toad.
Said Mole.
You look like yourself again.
Toad calmed down. In fact, he even giggled a little.
Toad, you knew we would come.
Said Badger.
We warned you.
Said Rat.
You are spending all your money.
Said Mole.
But
Said Toad.
You are getting a bad name.
Said Badger.
but
Said Toad.
The police are always after you.
Said Rat.
but
Said Toad.
You are a terrible driver.
Cried Mole. Toad looked down sadly.
Toad, we don't think you're bad.
Said Rat.
But you must give up your cars.
Said Badger.
Then everything will be right again.
Said Mole. Badger put his hand on Toad's shoulder.
Let's go into the next room.
He said.
We won't come out until you make a promise. You must promise to stop driving.
Badger led Toad into the next room. He closed the door.
It's useless.
Sighed Rat.
Talking does nothing. Toad will say anything.
The Wind in the Willows. Episode 39. Toad never listens. Rat and Mole sat in armchairs in Toad Hall. In the next room, Badger was talking to Toad.
I hope Toad is taking it well.
Said Mole.
I don't think Toad will listen.
Said Rat. They heard Badger's voice go quiet.
Rat, it sounds like Toad is crying.
Said Mole. The door opened and Badger and Toad appeared. Badger looked serious and Toad looked tearful.
Sit down, Toad.
Said Badger. Toad sat next to Rat and Mole. Badger faced them and cleared his throat.
My friends, Toad is truly sorry.
Said Badger.
Well, that's good news.
Said Mole.
Toad,
Said Badger.
I want you to apologize.
Toad looked this way and that. The others waited in silence. Suddenly, Toad jumped up.
no, I'm not sorry.
Yelled Toad.
I won't stop driving. Vroom!
What?
Shouted Badger.
You promised.
Toad pointed at the room.
I promised in there. You were so angry,
Toad said.
and I felt bad. But out here, I changed my mind.
I told you, didn't I?
Said Rat to Mole.
Well,
Said Badger.
there's only one thing to do. You won't change your ways, so we'll stay here until you do.
Rat, Mole, and Badger grabbed Toad. They dragged him upstairs. They locked him in his bedroom.
Let me out!
Shouted Toad. The Wind in the Willows. Episode 40. Crash, flip, thud. Badger put the bedroom key in his pocket. Toad looked out the keyhole.
Open the door!
Screamed Toad.
You can't lock me in here!
Calm down, Toad,
said Rat. Mole said,
We'll look after everything.
Your money won't be wasted.
said Badger.
Let me out!
Yelled Toad.
No more police.
Said Rat.
Let me out!
Yelled Toad.
No more hospitals.
Said Mole.
Let me out!
Yelled Toad. Toad's 3 friends went downstairs.
Toad is still screaming.
Said Mole.
Out!
We must guard him every minute.
Said Badger.
I'll take the first watch.
Said Rat. Badger and Mole left Rat with the key. They went outside to put the car away. Upstairs, Toad moved 4 chairs. He set them up like the seats of a car.
I'm going for a drive anyway!
Yelled Toad.
Vroom!
Said Toad, sitting in a seat.
I'm speeding!
Said Toad, leaning forward.
Watch out!
Cried Toad, pretending to crash. Toad flipped forward and fell on the floor.
What fun!
He said, and he did it again. Crash, flip, thud. Crash, flip, thud. Rat ran upstairs.
Are you all right?
Asked Rat through the door.
Rat!
Moaned Toad.
Get me a doctor! Oh, I hit my head. I may not live much longer.
The Wind in the Willows. Episode 41. Rat gets fooled.
I'm dying!
Cried Toad from his room.
Get me a doctor, please!
Rat stood outside the door.
Look, Toad.
Said Rat.
It can't be that bad.
Oh!
Moaned Toad.
Tomorrow you will say,
What? What?
Asked Rat.
you will say,
Toad said sadly.
if only I had done something.
Rat wasn't sure what to do.
I'm not supposed to leave, Toad.
Thought Rat.
Oh!
Moaned Toad.
But what if he's really sick?
Rat asked himself.
I'm dying, Rat!
Said Toad.
Say goodbye to everyone for me!
I'd better get a doctor.
Thought Rat.
Just to be safe. I'll be right back, Toad.
Said Rat.
Hang on.
Rat ran downstairs and out the door. Toad got up at once and put on his best suit. He opened a drawer to get some money.
Just a little cash.
Said Toad to himself. He stuffed his pockets with bills.
Let me see.
Said Toad.
Ah, the way out!
Toad knotted his sheets to make a rope. He lowered himself out the window. Toad sang a tune as he walked away.
I fooled Rat. How wonderful is that? I fooled Rat. And that is that.
The Wind in the Willows. Episode 42. the Red Lion. Toad hurried down the road.
The sun is shining.
He said.
I'm happy and carefree.
Toad danced a little dance.
Poor Ratty.
Toad laughed.
Badger will be so mad at him. Rat's a good friend, but he isn't as clever as Toad.
Badger and Mole came back to Toad Hall. Rat was very upset.
Rat, what's wrong?
Asked Mole.
Toad's gone.
Cried Rat.
I'm so stupid. Toad said he needed a doctor.
Said Rat.
He said he was dying. Oh, Rat.
Said Badger.
You fell for that old trick.
Inside, they found the bedroom empty.
Never mind.
Said Badger.
We'll see him again. I just hope it's not in the hospital.
Or in jail.
Said Mole. Down the road, Toad was eating at the Red Lion.
What a yummy lunch,
Said Toad to himself. Then Toad heard his favorite sound. Vroom! A big car drove up. The driver and his friends got out. Toad watched them come into the restaurant.
They left the car alone.
Toad thought happily.
No one will mind if I look at it.
He walked out to the car.
Oh my! It's so beautiful!
He gasped. He looked around carefully. No one was watching. The Wind in the Willows. Episode 43. King of the Road. Outside the restaurant, Toad stared at the car.
It has a big engine.
Said Toad. He touched the car door. His fingers trembled.
Vroom!
Toad said under his breath. He kicked the tires lightly.
What shiny wheels!
He said.
They could handle any kind of road.
Without thinking, Toad hopped inside.
Ooh, the seats are leather.
He cried. Toad saw the key still in the car.
I wonder what it sounds like.
Thought Toad. His hand shook as he reached out.
Should I?
Asked Toad. Then he smiled.
Why not? Just one little turn of the key.
Toad turned the key and the engine roared. Vroom! Vroom!
I wonder how fast it goes.
Said Toad. Toad drove out of the parking lot.
It feels so good to drive again.
Yelled Toad. He stepped on the gas pedal. Vroom! Toad sped down the road. He lost all thoughts of right and wrong.
Toad, the Road Warrior! Lord of the Trail!
Yelled Toad.
I am King of the Road!
He didn't know where he was going. He didn't care who saw him. Only one thing mattered. He was driving again. The Wind in the Willows. Episode 44. Toad in Trouble. Rap, rap, rap. The judge pounded his desk. Toad stood with his head bowed. Everyone in the court looked angry.
Clerk!
The judge yelled.
Mr. Toad is the worst criminal I know. How long can we lock him up?
Let me see,
Said the clerk.
he stole a car. He drove very dangerously. He was rude to the police.
My friends know I'm not terrible.
Thought Toad. But Toad's friends were not there.
Let me add everything up.
Said the clerk.
His penalty is 20 years.
Excellent!
Cried the judge.
Take him away!
The police chained Toad's hands and feet.
Come with us.
Said a policeman. They dragged him from the court. Outside, a crowd shouted at Toad.
Troublemaker!
Said a beaver.
Car thief!
Screamed a chipmunk.
Bandit!
Yelled a skunk. Children shouted at Toad and sang.
Look at Toad, he hit the road. Now he's going to jail.
They dragged Toad to a dark dungeon. A jailer stood by with a ring of keys.
Oh no!
Cried Toad. The jailer pushed Toad in, and the door clanged shut.
Little Fox.